So again, working iteratively in that previous code, you may have done, a handful of commits just off of that. So now I think this one should be a little bit shorter to get the class average. We can go through, you get the idea. I'll try to be a little bit quicker on these other ones because they're related. But if we want the average for the class, wouldn't we just take all of the student percentages and then divide it by the length of students? That's all we need here. Okay. So we do need to find the course again because we start off with a course ID. So let's take it from the top here. Found course. And so we've already talked about that. Interesting. Let's see where this goes here. I hope it's probably going to get like too fancy. But let's see. Yeah, because it's like, oh, well, you wrote that in this style, so now we're going to get super fancy in here. Let's take a moment to step through this. So it is written, fancier based upon how this one is here. So I guess we can leave it. But yeah, let's go ahead and just do, we'll go ahead and do this more iteratively here. So taking it from the top, we know how to find the course. Like, that's not a problem. And then we're going to just assume that we have some students here. So let's go ahead and get the percentage for each student. So yeah, I'm going to delete this out. And we'll just go here and do this more like a step by step. So we'll say, all student percentages. So here we're going to use, which is what I was going to do initially, but yeah, technically we could write it with the reduce. What's interesting is reduce can pretty much replace all of the other methods, but again, that's not cool to try to do that. It's fine if you want to warp your mind and do a bunch of like weird code, but it's not realistic. But yeah, this is very readable here, right? This is basically what we said that we were going to do initially. So I think it would be, yeah, I think that works right there. Okay, so we want all of the student percentages. Why can't we go to the found course and look at the students? Same thing, array, so we can do a map. And then for each student, we're going to look at the ID. And then we already have our course ID. We're going to get the percentage for that student right there. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and just log this. Get rid of these comments here. That looks like I have an extra brace or something. Okay. So now let's just do console log all student percentages. And let's see. I'm going to just remove stuff so we don't have too much clutter. We're just going to look at where we don't even have any implementation for adding the assignment. So let's just run this code as is. And so we'll go in here and say node src index.js. And as I suspected, gradebook.get. Oh, okay. This is all thrown off here. We don't want gradebook dot, right? Because we talked about that at the beginning. We're not making these methods. We're making these functions that we just pass in the data and then it does its thing. So let's do this again. Class average undefined. Yeah, that's fine because I think we said return or yeah, because so check this out. In the function, we don't even have a return. And if you don't have a return, then that function will be undefined. But we can see here what we end up with. 86 and 93, that's Maria and John's averages. So we can confirm that we have an array of all of the student percentages because we ran a map. So we took in this data and then we called get student percentage. And this is kind of cool because we composed our functions. We took a function that we wrote earlier and you reused it down here, so function composition. So again, whether or not you wrote this function or somebody else did, you almost don't even care, right? You just know, okay, I do want the student percentage, so I'm just going to use it as is. All right, and then now that we have all of the student percentages, we can now calculate the overall average, and that we will still want to use a reducer. So we can say const average. So we can take all of those student percentages. We'll not worry about math.round yet. We'll take those percent, or all student percentages rather, dot reduce. Yeah, so this, now we saw that was just an array of the percentages. So this is a very basic implementation of reduce. And then we want to divide that by the total students. And maybe you want math.round. So there you go. We can run that code since we already set it up to run that way. So the class, which makes sense. Anyway, the class average is going to be 90. All right. So average, all of this looks good. And so again, you could get really fancy with this, but this is our most explicit version, and then we can go back to using the fancier version. So let's take a look at that one here. And in this case, we will. So I'm going to go ahead and, well, let's see. First thing I'll do, actually, I'll just kind of follow the same process, because I would love it if the AI would just fill it in. So I'm going to take this out. So I would say this part here is not really that fancy. I would say that just having const over and over again is a little bit of clutter. So this is still very readable code. You're just doing chaining, right? Instead of creating that separate variable, you're going to just jump ahead and just use the gradebook courses.find. So if I undo that again, all we've done here is replaced found courses. We just take out that variable. So I would encourage you to do this to kind of not have too many consts in there. But again, it is up to you. And I think the AI is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Yeah, get the total students for that particular course. So again, students.length. So in this case, the length would be 2. And then gradebook, then find the same type of thing you're doing twice. And now that I look at this, though, since we are doing this twice, now that I'm going to take this back, right? Why would I run this twice? I mean, it doesn't matter that much. Do whichever way you like. But if we're going to use this twice, then I would argue, look, just keep it in the variable and use it as many times as you want. However, when we get to the fancier way, we probably aren't going to be using it 2 times. Okay. And so now we could, let's see. We could make this a little bit fancier. Same idea, though. I'm going to cut this. I'm going to pop this directly in here. And I'm going to use the question mark dot. And then take this out. Let's see how that looks. Yes. And then what you could do is you could take this, cut this out. So you see that now you do get rid of some of the consts, and it should still work. Oh, except I took out too much. We'll say, yeah, I see you're still going to use found courses.student length, aren't you? So that's not worth it. It's still not worth it to do that. Just keep it as found course. You can get that length. You run the find one time, get the length, and then just leave that variable in there. And then we could take out this average. Actually, just same formula. I'm not gonna take the semicolon. I'll cut this, replace this in here, get rid of this, and then see, now we're just it's significantly shorter. So I would say going to this point right here is probably just fine. We still have that optional chaining. Now you may be wondering, how come we didn't have to use like the OR operator like last time? And that's because we're dealing with a simpler situation. This is initialized to 0. We're not destructuring anything or anything like that. So there's no, even if this is undefined, then the whole thing, I think you're going to get math.round is going to be not a number or something weird like that. So yeah, this is pretty reasonable. This is pretty readable. And you could probably leave it at this. So yeah, you can go a step further and you could get crazy like we did up here and like we saw that at the beginning of the video. If you liked that, you can go ahead and do this, but this is probably the middle ground. It's not too much clutter with excessive consts in there, and at the same time, it's just using a little bit of chaining, so it's pretty readable. All right, I'm going to leave it at that.